Right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Once again, I'm joined by Hall of Famer, one of the greatest players of all time, Darren Appleton. We're just going to mix things up just a little bit. You know, we've done the kind of the rundown and the history of the games that have been played and all these different things. But I'd just kind of like to pick your brains just for people at home on more of a personal level, like which sports people do you like and all that kind of thing. I think it would be a shame to let you go without sort of picking your brains and stuff like that. So I've got a few questions. I've got the notepad, okay, for all the notepad police out there. But so I'm going to start off with, who is your favourite all-time American pool player?
My favourite all-time American pool player?
Player.
That's Efren Reyes. It's a bit of a no-brainer,
okay.
really.
Who is your greatest ever footballer?
The greatest ever footballer, Messi.
Okay. Upset a few Ronaldo fans, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and Maradona.
Maradona myself.
Your pal Maradona?
Yeah, Maradona would be my choice. Who is the greatest ever golfer in your view?
Tiger.
Okay. Dart player?
Taylor.
Your favourite or the greatest male tennis player, I should say, greatest player?
Roger Federer.
Okay.
He wants Nadal, or is it Djokovic now?
Either. Who is the greatest ever snooker player?
Ronnie.
Who is the greatest female tennis player?
Steffi Graf.
Who is the greatest Formula One driver?
Probably Senna, I think. What about you?
Yeah, I'd say that. Who is, what's your favourite football team?
Manchester United. And stroke at Everton.
Cut.
I've sort of took a little soft spot for Everton now.
Oh dear, double cut.
So I'm not really a fan, am I really? I used to be. Remember the '99 final against Bayern Munich in my house?
Oh, I do remember, yeah. You signed up for the Man United fan channel about 2 minutes after. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
What's your favourite ever pool win?
Favourite ever pool win? Probably have to be winning the Chinese 8-ball World Championship against Mark Selby, 21-19 in the final, 2015.
Fantastic. Your favourite ever moment in UK pool?
Probably winning the International Masters in 1998 against my good friend, and God bless him, his soul, Jason Twist. Because at that time, I think he was one of our main guys at that time. We just started playing World Rules, and I played really good in that final. But I think it was the first TV event we had away from the World Championship, so it was nice to when I won that tournament. Then it's like my biggest title at the time, and then obviously I went on to win a few more after that.
Stackis International.
Yeah, the Stackis International in Bradford.
Called Stackis Hotels then, weren't they? Yeah. So your favourite ever moment in USA pool?
Favourite ever moment in USA pool? It's a tricky one. I'd have to say that we're winning the World 9-ball Championships 2012, just because obviously the title, but also the circumstances how I managed to win it. Obviously I had a big lead. He come back and I ended up winning 13-12. That's right up there. Obviously the Moscone 2010, I don't think I can play any better than what I played that year. Plus it was in London. It was my first at home Moscone. And then, I won the World Games. That was quite big at the time, and US Open. So it's hard to really pinpoint one, but probably the most important was the World 10-ball in 2008, because then obviously it was good money at the time and took a lot of pressure off and it opened the floodgates. But yeah, I probably had to pick the World 9-ball. I think everyone who plays American pool, they want to win the World 9-ball Championship the most.
Biggest influence?
Biggest influence? What, in pool? Probably Andy Appleton, I guess, and my brother Shane. Andy's the guy what I looked up to when I was young. He's my cousin, even though he's like 10 years older than me. Maybe he's actually about 12 years older than me. But he was a top professional when I was a young lad, so I learnt a lot from him. He took me around. He sort of sponsored me in the early days, so he was a big influence. So I owe him a lot, really, when I look back now. And my brother also, we used to practice together all the time. Very underrated player, really. And
probably never got the credit for being as good a player as he was because he was your brother.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and he should have achieved more, even though he did all right. I know he was in the number 12 at one time, but he could have been I mean, in practice, he was as good as anybody in the world, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Nobody. I didn't like practicing against him. I don't think anyone did because he just played so good in practice. But yeah, so that probably them two really. Yeah.
Honourable mention, Dave Wright, maybe.
Yeah, Dave Wright also. He helped me on my path to American pool. He sponsored me, backed me. We played a lot of money games. He was putting most of the money up really when I was playing these guys in the Philippines, and the IPT and all that stuff. In America, we went to America together. So yeah, Dave was a big part of my career for about 4 years, and then yeah, he let me go on my own then.
Okay. Biggest disappointment.
Biggest disappointment.
2004.
Yeah, that's right up there. 2004. It's not probably. No, I think 99 is the biggest disappointment when I lost to Quinton Ann in English pool anyway. Because I had the game won really, and I should have beat him 9-7. Ended up playing the wrong shot, losing the match, and he went on to win the World Championship. No disrespect to the. I think I would have played Yannick in the semis, a good friend of mine, and Terry in the final. I think I would have won it that year. And obviously you never know how many I would have won after that. And obviously I lost to you in 2004, but I don't look back on that. I think, I've dug my brains out, just a little bit unlucky. And you played well at the end. And then the one against Selby, 2006. At the time I'd started playing American pool, so I didn't expect to get to the final. So I don't look at that as a big disappointment really. So yeah, probably the 99 one's the biggest disappointment. American pool's a tricky one. American pool.
Could I help you out a bit here?
Well,
Maybe the IPT not continuing?
yeah, the IPT was a killer, really. It was sort of like lucky for me, though, because I continued with the American pool career because of IPT and I had success. So I sort of was one of very few players what probably benefited from the IPT, where obviously the likes of yourselves and the guys what went back to English pool, obviously it was tough, wasn't it? And I think even some of the guys what come out of retirement, American pool, obviously they went back into retirement, didn't they? Or the guys what were coming towards the end of their career, where I was just starting my career at American pool. So obviously it was heartbreaking at the time, but when I look back now, I think, well, it was a blessing really, because if it wasn't for the IPT, I wouldn't have played American pool. I'd be still playing English pool. I'm not saying that's probably a bad thing, but obviously I've had quite a lot of success in American pool. So yeah, probably my biggest disappointment, probably the champion of champions. I lost 1 year in a sudden death rack against Mika and Torsten. Even though I won it twice, there was 2 finals where I should have won those 2 finals. Besides that, I don't really have any huge disappointments in American pool. Just because I've been lucky that I've more or less won all the tournaments, really.
So, past or present, you get to invite 5 celebs, famous people, and the waitress. So, who's the 5 who sat at the table?
The first one is Bruce Lee. I actually went to his grave actually a few months ago. That was
in Seattle.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable experience, really. It's hard to believe that he's actually there, because it's like he's just a superhero, isn't he? He's probably the greatest human to ever live, I think. And it's just a shame what happened to him, because he had so much more to offer to the world. Where someone like my next guest would be Muhammad Ali again, unbelievable. And he obviously was brutally unlucky with what happened to him with Parkinson's. So it would have been interesting to see what else he would have given back to the world, even though he still did. Then we've got Elvis Presley. I mean, he needs no introduction, does he?
And you've been to his gravesite?
Yeah, I've been there a few times, yeah. So, yeah, just 3 amazing people. Really, it's just hard to put into words, really. I mean, these people have big influences on you, don't you? I mean, if you're into music, it's not everyone likes Elvis's music, but for me, I grew up with it. My family love Elvis, you know what I mean? So my dad loves Elvis, so I just grew up with it, and yeah, it's just amazing people, isn't it? And then you see Muhammad Ali. I mean, obviously before our time, but you watch all the videos, don't you? It's just and the way he speaks and the way the things he contributed. Just icons, aren't they? Just Bruce Lee, I think he could have achieved anything, and he did, really. And the other 2, I can't remember, was it Tiger Woods? I mean, what he's achieved in golf in his era is pretty much astounding, really. It's hard to believe that someone can achieve what he achieved in golf, in a sport where I look at golf a little bit like pool. You need a few rolls, a little bit of luck here and there, and yeah, it's just unbelievable. I don't think he gets. I think because obviously the way it's ended for him is very sad, but if it wasn't for his injuries and everything else, he'll have smashed every record by a mile. And the fifth one, I can't remember. Was it Roger?
Oh, you got George Best. Actually.
Yeah, George Best or Roger probably being my last two. Obviously, I'd probably had to throw a football there with George Best just because I'm a Man United fan. And again, like you'd like him. You'd like to know what he was like in real life.
Who's the waitress? That's what we're all waiting for. Who is the waitress?
Well, the waitress for me is probably the woman. It's probably our era, my age group. Probably Megan Fox, I think.
Okay, so that comes me on to a question that I didn't have written down. Then, who is your celebrity crush?
Probably her.
Megan Fox.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about yours?
I do like Kate Beckinsale at the minute.
Oh yeah, you said
But
she's in hospital at the moment.
Is she all right?
Yeah, I don't think anything
Probably
too
of all
serious.
time, because of my era, obviously being like a teenage lad, probably Pamela Anderson.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say
Because
Pamela.
it
Yeah,
was
she was nice.
mid-90s when she was in her peak.
Yeah, I liked Michelle Pfeiffer when I was younger as well.
Yeah.
As an actress, anyway.
Catwoman.
Yeah.
Pet hate.
Dishonest players. It just winds me up.
Yeah.
Just
cheating
it's
players.
it's just unbelievable how people can just foul and not own up to it and then carry on as if nothing happened. And we see it all the time, don't we? And that's the only really black eye with Paul, I think. It's you just can't escape it. But it is getting a little bit better because the more and more events are getting TVs and referees. But it's just the culture we're growing up in, isn't it?
Tea or coffee?
Tea. But saying that, if you asked me 15 years ago, there's no danger tea. But now I'm like probably 60-40.
Yeah, you used to have 20 cups of tea a day
Yeah,
when I used to live up here.
I'm about to cut down on that.
Oh, have they told you to cut down?
Yeah, I
on
do
your
it in
teas and coffee?
moderation. I still drink too much, but I don't do like 10 cups a day like I used to do.
I drink far too much coffee.
Yeah.
Chinese or Indian?
Chinese.
What dish? Any in particular?
Probably Singapore noodles.
Okay. Favourite pool discipline?
Favourite pool discipline? None. Probably the toughest is, saying that, yeah, I mean, favourite. Well, probably American pool, probably one pocket if I was to pick any game to play, just because it's in your hands and it's the most skilled game, I think. But obviously Chinese pool's is probably the toughest regards fundamentals and everything else. English pool's like very tricky because you're playing in tight spaces all the time. But American pool, you require more knowledge of the game, more skill involved. So it's, yeah, probably American pool. It's the easiest of the three to practice.
Which is the hardest of the three? English pool,
Well, that's a tricky
American
one,
pool, or Chinese 8-ball?
On the eye, yeah, everyone thinks Chinese pool's the hardest. But if you're a great 8-ball player, I'm not too sure it is the hardest. Fundamentally, definitely, it's like snooker. But to master the game, then I think American pool. To master the game at American pool or get to a real top-tier level like the top guys, then I think American pool's harder in that sense. Making the balls is not, but the rest of the games, I think it's tougher to make it at American pool than it is, for me anyway, than it is the other two games.
Okay. And who was the most famous person you've ever met?
Most famous person I've ever met? Probably Mike Tyson.
Oh, you've met Mike Tyson, have you?
Well, I didn't meet him like as if we're going out for dinner. I just bumped into him in Las Vegas.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So I was like starstruck. That was probably like 15 years ago.
Right.
I just looked twice. You know, when you see something, you think, is that really him? Yeah, probably Mike Tyson, I guess.
Do you remember at the IPT when Carmen Electra was there, and Shannon Elizabeth, and Mario Lopez from Saved by the Bell was doing there?
And I've met Kevin Hart as well.
Oh, right. Well,
Because his brother plays pool, so I actually met him and spoke to him. So Kevin Hart will be up there also.
I once bumped into Nicole Kidman at the New York. Keith Jones was playing on the fruit machines.
Oh, I think I
went to the
remember
bar,
that, yeah.
and Nicole Kidman was at the bar.
Yeah, footballers.
Hello,
I've met.
Nicole.
I've been on the same flight as Nicholas Anelka.
Oh, right.
Jaap Stam was on my flight recently from Holland when I come back from China. So that was like, because obviously Man United fan, Jaap Stam, that era, he was amazing, wasn't he? So yeah, that was like, I was too...
Manny Pacquiao?
Manny Pacquiao, yeah. So I mean, but with Mike Tyson, Pacquiao, I think Tyson edges it, doesn't he?
Yeah, probably, yeah. And had a beer with John Barnes in Dubai, watching the Liverpool game in the Heineken bar.
Yeah, I think the person I'd like to meet the most probably Roy Keane and Paul Scholes, regards footballers anyway.
I suppose we take the snooker players for granted and dart players because we just see them all the time. You know, it's.
Yeah, I would have.
Meeting Ronnie was good.
I wish I'll have got to spend like some time with Eric Bristow. I loved Eric Bristow.
Yeah.
But never met him. And obviously, sadly, died a few years ago, didn't he?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Eric Bristow could have competed in this area because you play to the level you need to, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose you do. And I've got to ask you these two awkward questions, unfortunately. Your top 5 American pool players of all time.
Tricky one. Efren's number 1.
Yep.
Number 2, I guess Mike Siegel.
Yep.
And that's hard because I'm leaving Nick Varner out and Johnny Archer. But I've got to put Mike Siegel in there just for the all-round game, not just one particular game. He played good at all games, and he dominated the 80s. Yeah, and I've spent time with him, so I'll get to pick his brains, and I just like his knowledge of the game and how he's a funny guy. And then you got Earl Strickland, especially with 9-ball. Obviously, probably the best 9-ball player ever.
Okay.
So that you'd be a 3. I guess you've got to put Buster Manty in there, even though he probably should have achieved a bit more. But I mean, his game's just incredible, and I love him as a person as well. And then the 5th one's a tricky one because I could put Filler in there for this day and age. You could throw someone like Alex Pagaline in there, but yeah, I probably it's a tricky one. You got Wu Chia Ching. So yeah, it's hard to say a 5th one, so I'm going to just leave it there really, because there's that many of them, like Buddy Hall, all these guys. You know what I mean? It's just hard to really pick one for the 5th.
And in terms of, I know you've played Reyes, but maybe not at his peak. Who do you think's the best player that you've ever played at their peak? So would it be Filler, Wu Chia Ching? I know you spoke about him before.
Efren. I mean, I play Filler at his best, and he's the best potter. He's the best stroke I've seen. His timing, his tempo. I tell everyone I coach at American Pool, I says, look, if you want to copy somebody or learn off someone and their timing and their tempo, then do it with Filler, because everything's nice and solid. He doesn't jump around. Everything's in tune all the time. You know what I mean? It makes it look effortless, and he stays low on the shot and all that stuff. I think his stance is very similar to mine. So yeah, I mean, I think he's the best pressure player. I think he's the best pressure player I've ever seen. American Pool. So there is 2 big things really, and then like you say, we've got what did you say again?
I know you'd said to me previously Wu Chia Ching before Filler started to.
His stroke's unbelievable. I think Wu's got the perfect stroke for 9-ball. So yeah, he's right up there. He's been unlucky though, hasn't he? Because obviously he's come and gone. He comes back again, and then something else happens, so it stops him playing. COVID come. And when he just started playing really good again, and then he had like a cancer scare a good few years ago. Then he had the problem with Taiwan and China, which country is going to represent. So he would have achieved unbelievable things if he. I think he's the most unluckiest pool player of all time. But I mean, Shane Van Bonin's up there. You know what I mean? I mean, how can you not have him up there somewhere? You know what I mean? So he's probably been my biggest rival, I'd say, in my time. But yeah, I like the old-time players for their knowledge and the new players for their stroke.
So Filler kind of gets the nod, but we're not giving him a bit of time.
Yeah, well, there's 5 or 6 we could throw as a 5th.
A bit of time, yeah. One interesting for me, this was, what's your favourite state in America or city?
Favourite state in America, city? Probably, used to be San Francisco, but it's not so much anymore. It's gone a little bit downhill over there. Probably, if I had to live somewhere, I guess, wouldn't it? That'd be the right question. Probably, if I had to live somewhere in America, probably San Diego, I'd say. I think that'd be a nice place to live.
Well, Phil Mickelson's neck of the woods, yeah.
Yeah, very nice. Nice weather. It's just beautiful there. And also, probably, South Carolina's really nice. Myrtle Beach.
Right, okay. Well, that's Dustin Johnson.
Yeah, Dustin Johnson.
Johnson,
yeah. And Ewa Lawrence lives there as well.
Your top, this one is going to be really tricky for you, I think. your top 5 ever. Now we'll come back to that in a moment. I'm intrigued, taking Filler out of the equation, because I know what you think of Joshua Filler. Who would be your number 1 all-time European American pool player?
It's a tough one, isn't it?
And
The most successful is Ralph.
Where would you put yourself in the pecking order?
I think I put myself in the top 5.
Okay.
Because you've got Ralph, you've got Joshua, and then you've got Oliver Hartman, Niels, myself, and now you've got the new generation like Albin and Jason. But I think they need to play longer to get to them credentials.
Catchy.
But Albin's definitely up there. I mean, Catchy's going to get there eventually, but I can't just put them in that top 5. So the 4 guys, what I looked up to the most when I was coming up was Torsten, Ralph, Mika, and Niels. They were the 4 guys. What were the best? And Oliver. But Oliver just sort of was on his way out as I come in. So they were the main 5 guys when I first started playing. So yeah, probably those 5. And then obviously, if you want to look at the new generation, then you got your Filler, Catchy, Albin, Fed. Well, I'm going to say Fedor, but he's now American.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And you've got Jason.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's just a generation change, isn't it?
Right. And once again, because I've just thought of someone else here, really to put you on the spot, because, you know, I've got to, like, kind of wind you up a little bit. The top 5 UK American pool players.
American pool players? What, besides myself? Well, Jason's number 1. Yeah. I'm not going to involve myself. So Jason's number 1 by far. And then, Jesus, might upset somebody here.
We got him.
Even though he didn't fulfill what he could have done, I'd probably say Cowboys as number 2. Yeah. And then I'd probably have to say, Mellin, Darryl Peach would be the 4. And the last one's tricky. Who else is in there? You got Imran, Raj, but he represented India. So Mark Gray, sorry, yeah. So yeah, I'd have to put Mark Gray in there. Sorry, Imran.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be probably Jason, Carl, Chris, Jason, Carl, Chris, Mark Gray. Mark Gray and Chris are very, very tough to separate. Yeah. Even Carl, really. And Darryl
won the world 9.
Yeah, Darryl's definitely in the top 5.
The European Masters, which then become the World Masters. So I suppose you can only go.
Yeah, he was number 1 on the Euro Tour, and I think he got to number 2 in the world at one time.
What you win.
No, he was a very good player.
So Steve Knight wouldn't sneak in that 5?
Who was the 5th? Yeah, so it was a tough one. Yeah, he just didn't achieve what those guys achieved, really, as good as what he was. Yeah. And he did play the game better than all those guys, right? He played the game better, but he didn't achieve as much as those guys. I mean, Carl won major, Chris won major, Darryl won majors, Jason's obviously won majors. So yeah, just for that reason, really, he didn't win enough. Yeah. But as actually playing the game, he was better than all of them.
And in terms of
Raj played the game beautiful. You know what I mean?
He did. And in terms of those sort of knocking on the door previous to us was obviously like the Tommies and Andy Richardson and Tucker.
Very good, yeah.
You know, a few of those guys. And one that I always wondered, what could he have done had he have chose that path? Maybe something like a Phil Burford.
Oh yeah, Phil.
What could he have done?
Well, he's playing again. I don't think he's going to play full time, but he's doing a lot on his TikTok and his Facebook. And I recently played with him in the World Team Championship. And once I got the call, we was looking for another player. Obviously, Jason couldn't make it. Imran turned it down. To me, it was a no-brainer. For me, he's definitely top 4 player in the UK. I mean, American. At this moment in time, Phil's definitely a top 5 player in the UK. Yeah. Like at this moment in time, he'd have probably sneak myself in there still. You got Jason, Chris, Phil Burford, and Imran. They'd be the top 5 players in the UK right now.
And in terms of seeing someone that might do something, obviously a young guy.
But yeah, I mean, Phil could have been world champion, I think. I think he could have been world champion.
Yeah, well,
because when he was in America with Jason, there was around the same level, and that's going back 12 years ago.
Well, my claim to fame was the last tournament I ever played in the UK was the UK Open, and I actually beat Phil Burford in the final.
I think that's the one I missed, isn't it?
There was a few of you guys was away.
Yeah.
And I played.
I thought there'd be a reason.
Craig Osborne. who was obviously a better player than me. That was a nice win.
Yeah, he was a good player.
Michael Valentine was there.
Yeah, he was a good player.
And I actually played Phil Burford in the final, and I actually was gobsmacked.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's a good lad as well.
Because obviously I appreciated I was...
But he found a life. He got a good job. He got wife, kids. So that was the reason why, really.
And in terms of those, obviously young Elliot's trying to have a go now, which obviously isn't easy. He's doing well, and the overlap, I suppose, of that new, because you had the likes of Craig Osborne was dangerous at tournaments, wasn't he, for a while? I mean, I played.
Yeah, Anthony Ginn.
Yeah,
Holland guys.
I was looking at your trophies there, and when you won the world team. Obviously, there was a B team, and we did well. We did pretty well. We got overshadowed by your team. There was
Adam Ben Smith played.
Adam Ben Smith played. Valentine, myself,
Mellin,
and I think it was did Craig Osborne play with us?
Craig Osborne. Yeah.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's a good team, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, no, we certainly.
But at that time, I mean, Darryl was still really good at that time. Imran was on the sub bench, and he was obviously at that time really good player. Carl was playing good then. He was, I think, world 8-ball champion at that time. Yeah. And obviously myself, I was at my best then. 2010 was my best year, and Mark Gray was very solid, wasn't he?
Yeah, good player. Yeah, and obviously Jason wasn't even there then.
Yeah, no. Unbelievable. And he was playing the game, though, but I don't know why he wasn't there particularly.
Maybe just a hair before his time.
Yeah, but 2010 he was really good. I mean, I remember playing him in the US Open in 2006, so I think he was in America, and I think something happened why he didn't go. There must have been a reason for him to not play in the B team, that's for sure. Because he'll definitely meant the B team, wouldn't he?
Yeah. And what equipment are you playing with these days? Well,
now I'm playing with Tiger Cues, like yourself, but it's actually a different company. They're based in America. They're called tigerproducts.com. Been long time friends with Tony, the owner. Very well-known cue maker in America. Does everything by hand. None of that machine stuff. So I think he's one of the best cue makers in America for sure. He does all the tips as well. Sniper, Onyx, that's where he's like really well known for his tips. Everyone they're all like handmade. I've been with Tiger now. This is my second year. I've been with him with the tips. He's been sponsoring me with the tips for like about 5 years. Okay. So it's probably the best move I've ever made.
Jump cues, break cues.
Yeah, I use that jump cue as well. It's the icebreaker. Now I'm actually using the break jump cue. It's called the icebreaker, and I think it's the best thing I've ever used. Even the playing cue, we got the Fortis shaft, which in my opinion is the best carbon fibre shaft. Okay. I didn't like any carbon fibre shaft, but I was comfortable playing with it on a full-time basis. I mean, there's a lot of good carbons out there, but the Fortis, once I picked it up, it was the closest thing I felt to wood. So yeah.
And in terms of Dynamite Billiards?
Dynamite Billiards started last year. Was supposed to launch before my cardiac arrest, but obviously that was put on hold. Started last year. I've started slowly moving it towards America, so I'm sort of based in America and the UK. I have a friend in America, Jason Benji, who you probably know. He takes care of it all for me there, so without him I'd have no chance really, because the market in the UK is not big for American pool. So I did think about the snooker and the English 8-ball angle, but I really want to keep at it with the American pool, because I know if you get it right, there's a big market in America. So chalk, Tayam chalk. It's obviously best chalk. I mean, it eliminates skids, kicks, and keeps the cloth cleaner, and the cloth lasts longer. So I think everyone should invest in Tayam chalk. Really. What about you? Are you still on the Master chalk? Are you doing a Ronnie O'Sullivan?
With whatever's free.
Yeah, I was to say like where. So I can imagine you and someone like Ronnie just stick to triangle.
I haven't got any free Tayam yet, but look, if you want to give me some.
There you go. Jonas, Mick wants some Tayam chalk.
If you give me some, I'm good to go. You
said the UK. Did you say the UK top 5? Did you say?
I'm coming to that now.
All right.
So to finish off,
I didn't know if you asked a question earlier.
I would have to ask you a couple of questions. Your greatest ever opponent at English pool?
Well, unfortunately, that's you. So we'll leave it at that. You got lucky against me in 2014. 2004. That's 20 years ago. That's unbelievable.
Your toughest money match opponent at English pool?
My toughest money match opponent at English pool. I don't know really. I don't really. I guess at that time, obviously, everyone was raving about Ronan, so obviously it was nice to beat him as many times as what I did, but there's a few really. I mean, yeah, I don't really have one, to be honest. Toughest. I mean, they're all tough, but if you beat them, it's one of them, isn't it? But I remember that one time I played, even though it was only a cheap set against Rob Chilton, he played awesome against me. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to have like one toughest money match opponent. But I mean, like you said, like your John Day was renowned for being a good money player. Obviously Ronan. So yeah, I probably got a lot of pleasure out of those games.
You once gave me 2-star first to 6 for a fiver.
Yeah.
It didn't go very well. In terms of, spring this one up a little bit, the best shot that you ever seen at English pool, one jumps out for me.
Oh yeah, the Chris Milling shot. Was it a Great Yarmouth? Oh, you mean what I played?
No, what you'd seen.
That Chris Mellon shot at Great Yarmouth when we played London. I don't know if you were in our team then.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. He was like ripped a ball down the rail when the cue ball's on the bottom rail, ripped it in and got perfect on the black. And because before that shot, John Sullivan shouted out to Chris that you've gone bent because he played a terrible positional shot.
Yeah.
And then Chris has like jacked off the bottom rail and smashed the ball in down the rail and drew back for the 8. And Chris shouts out, "Who's gone bent?"
Yeah,
and then just pots the black.
Yeah.
So that was like, I always remember that shot, and I don't remember that many shots, but that one really sticks out in my mind.
That sticks out, yeah.
And the other one was you when you, in the World Final, I think it was 9-all, you cannoned the ball out and you just got on the black by a fraction. But that wasn't such a great shot. It was more like just a heartbreaking shot.
The one that sticks out for me, you'll probably recall it when I bring it up, was the Keith Brewer 10-10 safety shot against Ireland when he screwed back in behind the
that was amazing.
The 8 ball, and we was in the crowd at 10-10. Do you remember against bless his cotton socks, John McMahon from Ireland?
Unbelievable, isn't it?
And it's interesting. Obviously, I do spend some time in Ireland now. You know, obviously, Kathy and Joan and my daughter over there, and it's often spoke about. You know, Robert Brady and a few of them, the Thomas Kinsella and Mick Fortune. They often talk about that Keith Brewer shot that sort of broke their hearts at 10 each. And
that was unbelievable.
I remember me and you, I don't know if you ever watched it back. Remember back then, if somebody played a shot, you'd go, hello. Do you remember? And Keith played the shot, and you and I stood up in the crowd with obviously the red England waistcoat that year, weren't it? Because it was the embassy colours for England. And Keith played that shot. Maybe we can try and reenact it at some point and make a hash of it. But yeah, that's one that really stands out for me, 10-10 in the World Final, because you remember what it was like playing them teams. There was that much rivalry.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. We used to generate a good atmosphere there.
So,
I remember that positional shot what Quinton Ham played against Terry Hunt in the final. When it's like a little stun run through, but not a stun run through. If he punches it, it's no good. He has to. It's hard. It's so hard to do with that cue ball, and he come in between that gap to get on this ball. And I know 99% of players won't even know how to play that shot. So for a snooker player to come and play pool and even play that shot, that just blew my mind.
Do you know, I actually, it's funny you should say that, I actually talk about that shot a lot. That we were sat in the crowd, it was packed, it was a packed audience. And you remember the old cue ball, the old...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, it was the old cue ball as well.
Like a ping pong ball, weren't it?
Yeah, that shot he played was unbelievable.
So light and flimsy, and for those at home, what basically happened was it was a packed audience. And Quinton's got to play like a shot over like 4 or 5 feet, and he wants the cue ball just to turn over a ball, which is so hard, especially as
on that cloth as well.
The cloth's so responsive,
and the ball's been brand new.
Yeah, and it was so interesting that he played the shot, and you and I have looked at each other and gone, "Have you seen that shot?"
And nobody clapped.
And nobody did anything. No, to not disrespect anybody, but it was almost like nobody seen what he'd done.
It just went quiet as if like nothing happened. I thought that's probably one of the best shots I've ever seen.
You'll ever see.
He couldn't miss the ball. It was the position.
Brilliant, unbelievable. I remember like it was yesterday. And so interestingly that somebody would pot a straight plant and bring the house down. They go mad, don't they, over a straight plant.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
That shot that
snooker
Quinton
to
played
do that.
Always stood out for me as well.
That's definitely in my top 3.
Oh, so we will finish off with... And this is going to be a tough one for you, I think. You can include yourself if you want, but I know you didn't want to in the others, so that's fair enough. Your top 5 ever greatest English pool players.
Well, we'll start backwards. So number 5 would be. It's a tough one for me, but I think because they've been around so long and they've done it at all different rule sets, I'd have to say Jason Twist and Phil Harrison.
Okay, so I'll
just because they've been around so long and they've done it at every rule set, and obviously they've won world titles, they've won every major. They've won everything in the game, haven't they? And obviously, I think Jason's very overlooked a little bit, but for me, he was the best pressure player.
And if I can elaborate on this as you go along, if you don't mind, for me with the Jason and the Phil Harrison, it's like I thought that Jason slightly had the better route when they were both at their absolute peak. Because Jason was obviously so good under pressure, wasn't he?
He's the best pressure player.
The amount of deciders he used to win.
That was unbelievable. He must have been 90%.
Yeah, and Phil, I can see where you'd find that really tough to.
You know what you're going to get with Phil.
Yeah, and he's done it for so long as well.
Yeah, he did everything good, didn't he? His safety game was good. His pot's good. His weakness was his break. If it wasn't for his break, he would have won a lot more tournaments.
Yeah.
Because I'm on about here. I know he's had a lot of success. Let's say since I've stopped playing, but when we were playing, he comes short a lot because of his break. And then I guess he didn't like playing the likes of me and you, I guess, and Gareth. But I mean, he just kept going, didn't he? He just kept going and going and going. And you knew when you played him, it was going to be hard, very hard.
Yeah, he's managed to keep that level up.
Yeah, it's amazing that he's still winning, and he's got to be 50 years old.
I think he's just
turned. Yeah, he's like 2. I think he's 2 or 3 years older than me.
He may well have just turned.
So Phil, he's definitely got to be in there somewhere. I mean,
number 4.
Number 4 would be probably Mellon, I'd say.
Okay, so you've gone for Mellon at 4. So in a lot of people's eyes, possibly number 1.
Yeah.
For you, why would you have Mellon at 4?
At 4 because for me, his old EPA wasn't the brightest. I'm not saying the brightest. I mean, he's a very clever player, you know what I mean? But his safety game was non-existent, really. So he was never going to be successful at old EPA rules. World rules, he was a bit naive, but when the balls are open, or shot making is second to none. But obviously he had success at world rules, but he didn't have as much success as me, you, Gareth, and probably Twisty. You know what I mean? Even Phil. I know he won 2 world championships, but and he did all right. He did his big success were on the 8-foot table, right? But on the 7-foot table, he sort of like fell short a little bit. But definitely in the top 4, just because he's been doing it. Like I said with Phil, he's been doing it a long time. Probably the best shot maker we've ever seen. And he's got bottle, which is obviously a big part. And he just loves the game, doesn't he?
Best potter we've ever seen?
He's definitely up there. He's the best shot maker I've ever seen on an English pool table, without a doubt. And so he just plays for that, doesn't he? He just plays. He plays for that. He'd rather get a big round of applause for this crazy shot he's played than winning a tournament. Yeah, that's the way he is. Like, and it's cost him a lot of tournaments. And
obviously still winning and doing well now.
But sometimes the showboating's cost him big time. But he's just an incredible shot maker, isn't he? And he's got bottle. He's got a lot of belief, self-belief. I think self-belief is like second to none, really. So yeah, I mean, he's just and he could have done better. You know what I mean? You always feel like he could do better, like snooker. Yeah. You feel like he's probably got 50% out of his career, really.
Yeah. Super talent. And yeah, just for me to add to that, he would maybe be a hair higher, but in terms of, I do sort of understand what you mean. An amazing player, brilliant player. One of them where you did sort of feel like if you were turned up and you were absolutely at your peak, you might get 1 or 2 chances that you might not against somebody else, maybe.
Yeah, they'll always give you a few freebies.
But certainly in terms of knowing what you can do yourself and then seeing some of the things that he can do, you can't help but go, wow.
No, yeah.
There's not many people where...
He's one of them guys, isn't he? You can play average and beat him 8-4, but then you can play well and lose 8-2 to him. Yeah. 8-1. It's just that type of player.
I don't think I've ever seen a player where there's been times where I've actually gone, I don't know if I could have played that. I don't know if that's in the locker. You know, and I think there's plenty of shots that he's got where you think, rather you than me. You know, and he's pulled them off in big occasions. So it's certainly right up there. Yeah.
I mean, I remember all them times at Yarmouth and them team events, and you're thinking, oh, he's the guy you want to throw on first. You know, he's going to get you off to a good start.
He'd be in my top 5 as well. Number 3,
Mr. Brewer.
Okay, so you got Keith at 3. So. Okay, where are we going with Keith at 3?
I think he's very unlucky that we switched over to 8-foot tables in the World Championships, but also, even more for him, because he was so dominant at old EPA rules that they switched over from old EPA rules to world rules. I mean, he was good at them. I mean, he's still a top 10 player, wasn't he? For many, many years at world rules, and that's with really no cue action, right? He wasn't the greatest potter, didn't have the greatest stroke, but I mean, his touch and his safety game and his knowledge of the game was just unbelievable. Probably as good as anybody what's ever played the game, regards his IQ on a pool tables. I mean, it's frightening, really. And he was just a winner, wasn't he? He just wanted to win so badly. He loved the game. Probably loved the game more than us. He just loved the game, didn't he? He turned up to every tournament, whether it was 200 quid to the winner, 500 quid to the winner. He didn't care if it took 2 hours to win a county frame or 10 minutes. He just wanted to win, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think he was the ultimate winner. He must have achieved the most in the game without winning a world championship. Yeah. I mean, no respect to myself and you and whoever else, Gareth, but I think Brewer must have won more than us when you look at the whole career.
Yeah, and yeah, again...
He's unlucky that they switched to world rules, and then secondly, we'll go to the big table, because there's no doubt if he'll have played 20 years on a 7-foot table, he'll have won world championships.
Yeah, and again, yeah, I sort of see where you're going with it. I think Keith...
Because I look back at that era, yours, Ross and Keith were the best two, right? But everyone on our side always thought Keith was better than Russ. So that's why I give Keith the edge over Ross, really.
Ross make the top 10?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of Keith, for me, didn't obviously see his best, but I saw enough of Keith when the world rules come in, and still was winning at world ruals and still seeing him play.
I remember him beating me in a final of the UK Tour.
Yeah,
he played unbelievable. I think he beat you in a final, didn't he?
Me and Keith played. We played a pro match once at Coventry, and it was about 2002, and I'd won the 3 IPA tours in a row at that point. It was a bit of unheard of, wasn't it, at that stage? And I remember turning up to play Keith in a pro event that had been kept over. One of the breweries sponsoring it, and I remember thinking, I'm going to bash this old fella up. Yeah. He's 42, 43
that's
now.
What I thought when
I'm in the peak here. He's going to get back. He beat me 8-2. His cue ball was on a piece of string. He basically schooled me like you wouldn't believe. And one of the shots that he played, it always stood out for me, something that was really, really basic. Was, remember, he had a ball on the side rail, and he wasn't the best rail potter in the world because of his technique. Yeah.
He was the best at covering the pocket I've ever seen.
Yeah, because
unbelievable.
Little pokey.
You know how hard it is to do that?
I know, especially on them rubber.
And the speed he played him, it was perfect.
And back then, the knuckles of the pockets was more rubbery, so it would just rattle and come away.
Unbelievable. He was unbelievable.
They're a bit more like, they stick there now, don't they? But I remember he's played a shot in the middle pocket to effectively knock my ball down towards the pocket, that he's now going to play the one down the rail. Meaning if he hangs the one down the rail, he's got my ball now, he's just knocked down there. Yeah. And I thought, that's clever.
He was so clever at world rules as well.
Like,
him and Kendall were so clever at the world rules as well, when it comes to the tactics.
Really clever in terms of, like, even if he misses the one down the
Brian
rail
Alcrow was another one.
Very good tactically. Carl Morris was really good tactically.
I think Brian might have been the best tactician at world rules.
He was good, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was good.
He was right up there. Carl Morris. Fun, but yeah, I should give Carl a mention, really. He was class, wasn't he?
So Keith at 3, and I do, yeah, I see it. Obviously, Keith would be fringe 5 for me in that Jason and Phil thing, because obviously you would be in my top 5. Yeah. So it would be tricky. I'd end up having the Keith, Jason, Phil conversation. In this, because you know, but
would you put any of the new generation in your top 5?
Of all time?
Yeah.
No. What I would say is I genuinely think that.
Well, you know better than me. You play against all these guys.
I think Tom Cousins is entitled to be. To be suggested that he could have lived in any era of competition, purely because he breaks so big as much as anything, and we know how important the break was at World Rules as well. Yeah. Then I feel like you go in money players
like Matt Boyle.
Yeah, and I don't know where you're supposed to go with money players, because we're talking tournament players, we're talking trophy cabinets. We're not talking what's a money play? What does it even mean? It's like,
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Ronan was good for money, wasn't he?
yeah, I mean, there's been,
Yeah, Farnsworth, he was a good money
yeah,
player.
again, Mark Farnsworth, Ronan was good for money. Like you said, like there's a boy, Mark Boyle, but I don't know. Ross, obviously, a bit before my time, and then you've got the honourable mentions of Greg Farron.
Wayne Fryer.
Fryer. I never saw Tommy at his peak, but
Tommy,
I know he was good because I could see it.
I think besides ourselves, I think Tommy's the best rail potter I've ever seen.
Yeah, I like.
He was renowned for being the best rail potter. When I first come on the scene, everyone says, "Oh, watch Tommy down the rail. He never misses." He was a great potter.
Yeah, the likes of the
Good cueist, really smooth.
the likes of Lee and Rob McKenna on the big stage. You see,
Steve Sanders was really good.
Steve Sanders, yeah.
But you remember Brewer won about 7 old EPA rules tour events in a row. I mean, that's incredible.
You see,
You're talking class players. You had your Steve Sanders, and Steve Sanders won 3 in a row.
Yeah,
Rob Hill, all those guys.
Yeah. I did like McKenna on the big stage though.
Oh, big table, yeah.
I did like him.
I tell you what, Robert do really well at these new rules.
International rules,
On this ultimate pool, he'd do really well. I'm not saying he'd do well now because he's getting old, but Rob was unfortunate that it was old EPA rules, so he didn't have a lot of success. But if they were playing them rules 20 years ago, Rob would have been right up there with us all.
Of all the older generation players that I see that I didn't get to see play at their peak, the one that stands out for me where I'm saying, because I did catch the end of Fryer, the one for me where I go, I know he was a great player even though I never seen his best, is Tommy.
Yeah.
Purely because I can see the way he plays. You just know he's good.
Tommy and Greg were. Wayne Fryer, they were like robots, really.
Yeah, number 2.
Mr. Potts.
Okay, and where are you going with that one?
He's unlucky that you're around, really. Probably
I don't know, he's won enough though.
He's probably like the most dedicated.
I'm unlucky you and him was around.
Well, yeah, but he's probably the most dedicated pool player ever by a mile. Probably practices the most. Probably got everything out of his game what you can possibly get out of his game. The only slight weakness for me when I played against him anyway was his safety, and probably his cue ball wasn't as good as yours, but he probably had a little bit more self-belief than you. Probably slightly better temperament than both of us, I think. But yeah, he didn't. His pattern play and his safety play just wasn't quite as good as yours.
Right.
So that's the only real difference I think between the two of you is that, it'd be 50-50 whether I'd want you or Gareth to play one frame for me for your life, because you're both so good under pressure, and Gareth's got different attributes to you where your pattern play is the best, you're more clinical, you're more of a perfectionist, where Gareth will rely on his shot making, his potting. So yeah, it's a tricky one, but obviously you just hedge it as number 1 just because, you were just so hard to beat even when, it's just my personal view, innit? Some people think Gareth's the best, some people think Manning, whatever, but it's just when I played you both, I just knew with you I had to be at my absolute best just to have a chance to win. So that was the difference. And then obviously I watch you play against all these guys as well, so it's just, I just thought if you play well, you win. You know what I mean? It's easy to judge from the outside than it is the inside. Where if I'm playing Gareth, I'm thinking, no, does Mick think I'm going to win against Gareth if I play well? I don't know. But when I'm watching you against Gareth or Mellon against Gareth, I sort of can pick who I think's the favourite, you know what I mean? Like Phil against Carl, for example. So so that's why I look at it. I just think, well, Gareth just small details, innit? So we know the details, but to the amateur, they might think Gareth's the best, or whoever, you know what I mean? They probably don't know what I'm talking about regards just that clinicalness and that safety play. But obviously with yourself, you had it all, really.
Yeah, okay. I mean, obviously tricky for this one for me in terms of getting in the conversation of me and Gareth, because obviously it's me. So I would probably flip this over the other way. And, yeah, Gareth, great player. Like you said, very professional, certainly puts the time in, certainly deserves everything that he gets out the game. I can totally get where somebody would say that he's the best player. I find that I find it hard, even because you want to take your ego out of it, but you believe in yourself and you believe you know where you're at. And there was only really ever 2 players that I felt like I was comfortable with someone saying was better than me. And I've had that conversation, and that's not to say Chris and Jason and Phil can't be allowed to say that, And Keith was obviously Keith and Ross and whoever else was a fraction before my time. But people often say to me, "Who's the best 3 players that you've ever played?" And they know that I'm going to say you, Gareth, and Chris. But how I answer it was, I used to answer it, and I used to think, who is it actually? And then how I felt like I discovered the answer was, how do I feel against those 3 compared to how I feel when I'm walking down to play anybody else? How do they make me feel? So, how it used to be, you used to play in the hotels, or you'd leave your room, you'd, for want of a different explanation, you'd go to the toilet before you went down, wouldn't you? Because you're nervous. You had your nervous number 2, so to speak. And you'd walk down the corridor. You get to the lift, and you'd be thinking, I'm nervous. I feel edgy. I need a bit of help here. I hope the pool gods are with me. I hope he don't get any balls off the break. I hope he's been out last night. But I never, with all due respect, and as great as Jason, awesome player, Phil, all them great players, I've played loads of great players. I genuinely felt, and even with Chris with that, because he's brilliant, don't be wrong, but there was only you and Gareth where I ever really felt like, I'm a favourite. I think I am, but am I? Yeah, you're favourite. No, you're not. Yeah, you're favourite. No, and I used to have this constant fight in my mind. Now, what used to give me the slight edge for you over Gareth, and it would be no criticism of him at all, was me and Gareth only ever practiced together when he was a young kid. So I used to go to his his dad's house as it was, and then Dave, obviously
I did as well.
Great bloke, weren't he? And we used to go. Then he had a table in his conservatory.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
But he was only a young lad, and when he started to get good, we never practiced against each other because he didn't want to let on where you was at.
Yeah.
Whereas with you and Chris, I practiced with you loads and loads, so I knew how good you really was.
Yeah, and I think with you, because you come along, I was probably just about becoming number 1. So you probably had me as the target, didn't it? So you had me as your target, I guess, when you first come on the scene, where I'm thinking, I've got this kid to deal with now. So it's different. And I think Gareth had that with me. I think Gareth probably looked up to me, and so I felt as if I had his number a little bit.
Yeah.
But if I'd have kept playing, let's say after 2006, Gareth might have got a lot more wins against me.
Yeah.
Because obviously he really starts with his
and
peak
that was
then.
more his peak,
where obviously
wasn't
then you had his peak against him for like 4 or 5 years, I guess.
Yeah, that, absolutely.
So it's a little bit different for you than it is me, because I did well against him, but that's probably, I took advantage of him, really.
Yeah, that's...
Even when he was class then, you know what I mean? He was class at what?
Yeah, no,
17 to 25, whatever it was.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think when there's very little to split, but I always felt like if I was really pushed on it, a big factor would be I got to see you play loads more. And I had them beatings in Triangle in Wakefield.
Yeah, and I think he'd definitely be favourite against me on an 8-foot table at that time.
Yeah.
But on a 7-foot, I always felt I'm going to be okay as long as I played my best game, you know.
Yeah, and that's it. You feel so when I discuss this with people now, so we don't need to discuss number 1 because I don't need my ego being fueled that you're saying myself, but I just felt like when I played you 3, Chris a shade lower than you 2.
Just the inconsistency with Chris, really.
Yeah, and obviously, I
because if you're going to beat Gareth, you're going to have to beat him. If you're going to beat Phil, you've got to beat them. Carl Morris, even yourself. But with Chris, like I said before, you could play bad and still win, or play average and still win. But then he'll beat you 8-1, and you're thinking, what have I done wrong? Yeah. You know what I mean? So Chris is one of those, like, you fancy winning probably 7 out of the 10. But you play yourself and Gareth and Phil and all these guys, you know it's going to be a grind.
Yeah, no, I totally understand it. So, in this instance where you've got me at number 1, you've got Jason and Phil. You can't split. Chris at 4, Keith at 3, Gareth at 2, myself at 1. If this was a bit of a role reversed, I guess, then it'd be the other way around with yourself. For being very, 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 very marginally, it would be really tricky to split. If I was absolutely forced, I'd edge your way, and I think a little bit of that would be because I saw just so much more of you, and you give me so many more pastings around triangle and whatever. And of course, what a lot of people don't know is that for a couple of seasons we split the prize money, didn't we? We used to go shares, and you did your fair share of wins, and I had my fair share of wins, and I know it's well documented that Dennis Priestley
and Phil Taylor
did it in darts, split the prize money. So, and we did that, and it just took that little bit of pressure off, didn't it?
We were like a team, weren't we? We used to go to all these pro-ams, and we used to win 80% of them between us. Because if one of us had a bad day, the other one's not going to have a bad day. You're playing those tournaments, it just made sense, didn't it?
And just to wrap that
and
up,
obviously the good thing there is that we worked as a team, didn't we? So it was good.
And I guess just a mention from me for yourself with that is, I do genuinely believe that you're the best American pool player to come from the UK. You're in the Hall of Fame, which is an incredible achievement after 10 years of playing, or whatever it was, 11, whatever it was, 9, 10, 11. It was just unheard of, really, how successful it was. And what a lot of people don't understand with that, and people at home, is that when you've perfected one cue sport, your muscle memory is all about that game. To be able to wipe 95% of that out and then learn a new game was incredible. And I think what a lot of players don't understand is you can be executionally talented. So Mellin is an executional player talent that you may never see again in the likes of UK pool. But what people don't understand is you can also be mentally talented. And that is where, for me, you're head and shoulders the number 1 most talented pool player from the UK in terms of understanding a game, your systems that you know overnight, your understanding the physics of the balls at all the games, your understanding of talking shots through and the percentages, and just your overall knowledge of the game in terms of somebody from the UK playing all the cue sports. I think you without a doubt.
A lot of that comes from other sports. So I like to study other sportsmen, like we said before, Tiger Woods, Roger Federer, Ronnie O'Sullivan, John Higgins, all these guys, Eric Bristow. I like to understand the physics of it all and what's going through their head mentally. And then Ephraim Reyes, obviously, Alex Pagulayan. I'm always asking a million questions to people like Alex Pagulayan, like yourself. You met Bustamante, you played him. It's hard to explain to the normal people what people that want to aspire to be pool players. You've got to study these people. You have to study these people because they're geniuses, really. Like Ephraim's just a genius, you know what I mean? It's just unbelievable.
You can't.
Like when he's like watching you play, and then he comes to the table and he says, "I think you should have gone this way," and you're like scratching your head and you're thinking, "Well, that makes sense." Even though it was a tougher shot, the rewards are unbelievable. You know what I mean? Where the way I was playing it was the coward's way. And you just learn so much off people like him and Bustamante, Alex Pagulayan. They're like dictionaries. You know what I mean? I watched hundreds of hours of him. You know what I mean? Bruce Lee. Even though it's different, it's still the same,
it's
really.
Inspirational.
It's just the mental side.
But even in terms of when I was a kid, I would remember. Obviously, I was a lot junky. I was addicted to KFCs, but I'd go to the Coventry Hilton.
And your nan's breakfast.
I
remember your nan's cooked breakfast. That was legendary.
Bless the cotton socks. But the IPA tour, it would be Darren Appleton versus Keith Brewer, table 10. I'd dive over to KFC, go and get myself a bucky. But I would sit there and I would study, you know what I mean? It's like people watch pool, but they're watching it from a spectator entertainment point of view. I used to watch pool like what's Darren going to play here? What's Keith going to play here? Well, that's a clever shot. I remember that one. What's he played? And don't get me wrong, on the odd occasion I might go, okay, much for that one. I'll get rid of that one. There's room for improvement here. And I think there might become a time, or there may well become a time, whenever it may be, or where we are in the pecking order, whether we 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, whatever really. But there may well be somebody at a point in time go, Darren Appleton, he weren't right cracking, That Mick Hill couldn't even do that. Or that whatever, couldn't even do that. Because they will have learned from us that we made mistakes. We weren't all that. And you see the youngsters now, don't you? And they look and you go, yeah, you might have been good a few years ago, but you're not very good now, are you? And, that we thought that. I used to look at Lee and Keith, who used to think, I respect you, but I'm ready for
everything
you.
evolves, doesn't it?
Of course, everything evolves.
Doesn't mean they're better, it's just a different way of playing, our generation, equipment, everything else. It's like football, isn't it? People say, someone like Roy Keane won't be able to compete today. I say, are you people crazy? You get to the level you need to get to. Right? It's not the level, it's more the fitness, isn't it? It's like football now.
Yeah.
The football, they're all on these nutritions. They're all playing till they're 40 now.
Yeah.
Where obviously 15, 20 years ago, there was retiring at 32, 33 because they've been on the beer.
Yeah.
But they were still fit. They just were as fit as what they needed to be at that time.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, and I think sort of leading on from that, and we've all had these pub debates. So
it's like Bristow.
I love it.
He averaged 95, whatever, but he could have averaged 110 if he needed to.
Well,
there's no doubt, like John Lowe.
I was really bad at one time. I mean, I'm nowhere near as opinionated with debating as I once was because I've matured and grown up. But I would argue till the cows come home at times that somebody was better than somebody else.
Yeah.
And it's not until
like tennis as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not until you sort of wise up a little bit, become a bit mature, that you think it's really hard to debate different eras.
It's like Steve Davis. I mean, he dominated his era, but surely Steve Davis could have played better if he needed to.
Or tennis players playing with a wooden racket. How could they? Of course, they couldn't play at the same level as Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer playing with a wooden bat.
Yeah, they've all got 20 people behind them now.
Yeah,
they've got someone giving you a massage after every match.
And the football pitches being like farmers' fields.
I mean, these football pitches now are incredible, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's like green balls, isn't it? It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, you watch old matches from like the 80s, 90s. Compared to the fields now, it's just incredible.
I think what does frustrate me, and we can get nostalgic about it, I genuinely think that snooker 1998 to 2004 and English pool 1998 to 2004 was the strongest it ever was.
Yep.
I do genuinely think, when you consider, you've done
98 to 2000.
a top 5 here, right? And you couldn't split Jason Twist and Phil Harrison, right? We've not even mentioned Mark Selby or Quint Ham.
Yeah, I know.
And I understand why we wouldn't, because they didn't play long enough to get the pool tag, if you like.
Yeah,
but how good was Selby and Quint Ham?
Yeah, that was great, but we're judging them more on an 8-foot table than we are a 7-foot table. But Selby would definitely 100% be in the top 5 if he didn't play snooker.
Yeah.
Right, and just played pool his whole career.
Yeah.
And Quinton probably would be also.
Yeah.
But Quinton less than Mark Selby, because Mark Selby's more dedicated, more disciplined.
More rounded.
Where Quinton, he's gonna get up to no good.
Who did you think?
But I think at the absolute best, the both of them.
There's not much in it, is there?
I'll probably give the edge to one, Quinton and.
I didn't think there was much.
Just because I've played them both, I'm going by what I've seen and what I've played.
Yeah.
Where I always felt as if with Selby, if I play well, I win. Where Quinton, he had an amazing aura about him.
Yeah.
A bit like Brewer. When I first come on the scene, you think, it's Keith Brewer. A bit like the American pool, isn't it? You see Jeanette Lee, you see Efren Reyes, I feel a bit intimidated by them.
Yeah. You definitely feel...
Like you're like that with Alison Fisher.
Yeah, I am like that with Alison Fisher.
He gets excited when he sees that alley.
Yeah, well, I suppose, I mean...
And what's her name? Tang. You like Tang as well, don't you?
Well, Tang's the best female.
Tang's the best female Chinese 8-ball player, isn't she?
Well, probably the best.
You think she's the best you've ever seen?
Probably the best female, probably anything I've ever seen.
Yeah.
To be quite honest with you, I mean, I think that the level that she plays to. I mean, you talk about Alison as well. I know Kelly a lot better than Alison. So Kelly's more like one of us.
Yeah, she's like.
So I see Kelly, I'm like, Kel, come on, let's go and have a coffee. Alison's got that more order about her for me, because I remember watching Alison as a kid.
Yeah.
On the TV, playing Jimmy White at snooker.
Playing with Steve Davis.
She was a part of the Matchroom crew.
Yeah.
And so I think...
Yeah, she was the first, wasn't she?
Alison, like, she would be more... I'd be more starstruck with Alison for that reason, yeah.
It's like you, I think you looked up to Greg Farrell, didn't you, and people like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I was a young kid coming up, Greg was world champion 1996.
Yeah, I remember that.
I couldn't pot a ball if Greg used to watch me play. Because I was so desperately trying to impress him and get him to rate me.
Yeah.
And I remember we were at the World Championships once, and he said something, and I thought, oh, he rates me now. I can play in front of Greg now. I mean, it's a crazy thing, because what we wouldn't understand, because we're not that type of character, is how many times have we watched and people have gone, I can't pot a ball now, Darren Appleton's watching. I can't pot a ball now.
Oh, without doubt. I've had loads of people tell me that. So you don't have to worry about me.
You got Mick, are you in the commentary box? Yeah. Oh no, go easy on me, will you? don't pull me to pieces with my shot selection. I go, I'm not really like that, but I'm like, and I had I had Dave Fernandez, sound bloke, plays on the Ultimate Pool Tour, and played in the England side, and I'd commentated on one of his matches, and the same with Arfan as well, and they messaged me, and Dave said, I watched my match back. That was such a good point you made. Then I'm really glad that you said it. And Arfan was a similar type of thing where I'd basically gone, come on Arfan, you're chipping off the ball behind the ball, aren't you? And he didn't play it. And he messaged me the next day and he's gone, how did I not chip off that ball in behind the ball? So I think that those players do genuinely like the likes of us commentating on their games, because
definitely.
I think they
I'm
respect,
the same when I play pool. I'm thinking, I hope Jeremy's commentating, or I hope Ill's commentating, so that I've got something to look forward to listen back.
I think.
Where if it's a two regular commentators who I don't really particularly like listening to, then I won't bother watching it.
Yeah, I think they genuinely respect our view on how to play the game, and they one or two people have almost sent a message, like a couple of the Huddersfield lads, like the Dysons and Driver and all them lads, they've gone, we feel like we're getting a free coaching session when you're in the commentary.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Well, I'm like that though, aren't we, with the other sports, aren't we?
Of course.
I mean, snooker, I mean, we like it if Davis is in there or Hendry, you know what I mean?
I mean, the commentary...
Or Ronnie's in the studio and all that stuff.
The commentary and the punditry make the whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, that's why football's so good. I enjoy the pre-show more than the actual match. Because you got your Roy Keanes in there, and I'm like...
Yeah, well, Wimbledon, John McEnroe, now Brad
it's just amazing.
They're all...
The commentary makes a huge difference.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I used to love...
That's why Matchroom, they're starting to get it a little bit better. They're starting to get proper commentators in there now.
Yeah.
Like Jeremy, Scott Frost, even Carl's really good.
Carl's good, Jeremy's really good. But I mean, even you watch, when you used to watch... Shane Warne when he he was great to listen to at the
What's
cricket.
his name? Jeffrey Boycott?
Jeffrey Boycott.
He was awesome, wasn't he?
Yeah, you do. You
Murray Walker?
Yeah, Murray Walker, John Motson.
The horse racing guys?
Yeah, that's...
Was it Sitcombe or something? John Sitcombe, he was awesome, wasn't he?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Peter Scudamore?
Well, now it's McCoy and Robbie Walsh, isn't it? It's like you want to listen to them.
Yeah, it's like when Bristow was in the studio or commentating. It's just amazing, isn't it?
They're so knowledgeable. But yeah, been great chatting to you, mate. It's
been
great
awesome,
catching up after all this time.
I wonder if our fans learned to stun the ball yet. Our fan dad, that is.
We will see. But right, thanks for having us as your guest.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
It's been a pleasure, mate, and good luck.
Well done.
Welcome everyone. So recently I was invited to the Sam Leisure showroom, and I often get asked a lot about the table. What table am I playing on? It doesn't look like a Supreme, etc. Now it isn't a Supreme. It's actually a Sam Atlantic Champion table. We will do a review to tell you all about the different things, the different spec and all the positives about the table. And so yeah, keep a lookout for that. A big thanks to Sam Leisure for sponsoring the channel, and we welcome you to look at the video, and hopefully you'll love the table just like we do. Yeah. Just to pick up on a point that you said a bit earlier about the idea that the cushions are effectively is clamped to the slate.
Yeah.
I've played, you know, for many years. You know, I started off with a catalogue table effectively as a youngster, and of course after a while it just becomes completely unlevel, but because the slate's just bowed, you know, it's kind of gone sort of like that where you can level it forever. It's never going to be level because the slate's obviously. So yeah, really interesting feature, and of course something that's going to eliminate that factor of your slate dipping, you know.
Your construction really helps on that. The central leveling points as well, giving that slate some support internally is huge, because, you know, it's it's a large flat piece of you know, slate as it were, but you still need to support it adequately. And with the internals of this one, and the fact that it's clamped to the top rail, not just resting on an MDF and things like that in some other tables, it just means that it's got a backbone there. You know, it's got the support, so it's not going to start doing things like that. But that's a really important point. And then obviously the proactive cushion system, as we've gone through a couple of times already, is hugely beneficial for the player.
Well, it just can't be underestimated, as you said. We have sort of resorted back to that 2 or 3 times with various sort of you know, descriptions, but it cannot be underestimated just how good that system is in terms of how the cushions play, not having the rim, you know, for doubling balls, for the rail potting, and just overall sort of feel of the product itself. It feels like. You know, for want of a better word, you know, you go and get a wardrobe, you know, from IKEA effectively, you know, but you find it, you put it up and you move it, and you need to throw it away, you know, because it's kind of, this just feels like it's up, it can be moved around, it's solid, you know, it's you're not sort of bumping into it and it moving or anything like that. And yeah, just an extremely impressive product. Thanks for your time, Mike. Great description of the table, and it was good to meet you.
Yeah, you too, mate. Cheers, mate.